developments in Venezuela. A short time ago, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told CNN that Nicolás Maduro was preparing to leave Venezuela, but was talked out of doing so by the Russians.
And we're joined now by Dr. Eduardo Gamarra. He is a professor of political science in the Department of Politics and International Relations at FIU. Thank you for lending your expertise to us this evening.
Pleasure to be here.
So first, let's talk about Russia. What interest does Russia have in keeping Maduro in the country? And also, if you could explain what interest the U.S. has in ousting him from the country.
Okay. There's two things to explain Russian involvement. One, it's sticking it to the U.S. You know, this is a wonderful opportunity to do so. But also, Russia, over the course of the last 2 decades, has been building up not only military relations with Venezuela, very strong ones, but also private economic interests, especially in oil. About 50% of Venezuela's oil is now in Russian hands. And that, of course, makes it, I think, a very, very large chip to get out of Venezuela. U.S. interest in Venezuela, of course, this is our backyard, so to speak. We've been talking again about the Monroe Doctrine, something very few administrations had been willing to talk about for many, many years. It was a bad thing to talk about. And yet today, under this administration, we're going back to this language of the 20th century, early 20th century.
I have to say that these are some startling remarks that I've seen, that to imagine Nicolás Maduro would be ready with a plane to go to Cuba. Why would the Russians at the last minute, does that sound believable to you, say, no, stop, stay where you are?
I think that plane is always there. That plane is always ready. It's been ready for a while. Because I think, in fact, the government of Venezuela is in a very, very weak situation. It's probably accurate to say that the majority of Venezuelans are ready for a change, and they're ready, in fact, to go out on the streets and to defend Maduro. But yet Maduro also has enough support to mobilize a significant portion of the population, and he also controls a very large portion of the military and most of the rest of the state.
So, you think Russia has that kind of clout that they could just say, no, you stay right there,
I
don't
think
leave?
so. I think so, and especially because Venezuela has such a large debt to Russia, a large economic debt to Russia. So I think it's very, very, very much the case that Russia can call the shots for them.
So we've heard all day kind of this back and forth about whether this is a coup. Guaido supporters insisting this is not a coup, that he is the legitimate leader and countries around the world recognize him as a legitimate leader. Others saying this has all the hallmarks of a coup. Is it a coup or not?
Well, I think if you begin with the premise that Nicolás Maduro is an illegitimate president, that he was elected in a fraudulent election, and that his term, the term that he was legitimately elected to, ended on January the 10th. After January the 10th, he's no longer the legitimate president of Venezuela. Therefore, any action against this, as the opposition calls him, this man who has usurped power, is really against a de facto government. So therefore, I'm more convinced by the argument that it is not a coup, that in fact it's a very large civic movement that began in late January and continues to the present.
Are we going back now to the Cold War, where if we think that if the United States took any kind of military action against Venezuela, it would be an action against Russia?
I think we've been there for a little bit. We've been largely replaying the Cold War, although with some really different sets of. Russia is now not on the left; it's very clearly on the right. Okay, and our interests in Venezuela are we're claiming that they are interested in restoring democracy there, but the use of the military. Remember, we have this.
The military is the key here.
Yeah, we have a very unfortunate history of supporting right-wing military coups in the region. This would be an interesting case where we are supporting military action to restore somebody who, comes more from. See, this is one of the great confusions. Guaido is a social democrat. He comes really from one of the leftist parties in Venezuela. So it's kind of an interesting thing that we have a right-wing president in the United States supporting action in favor of restoring, a social democrat into office.
We're out of time, but you agree that the military in Venezuela really holds the key to resolving this?
I think it does, and until the military, at least the largest part of the military, doesn't turn over, this is going to go on for a while.
Eduardo, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Dr. Eduardo Gamarra. Stay with CBS 4 News for continuing coverage on the uprising in Venezuela. We'll be monitoring the situation closely throughout the evening and bring you any updates on air and online at cbsmiami.com.